Hello dear viewers, welcome. Today, we will delve into one of the impressive philosophical movements of the ancient world, Stoicism. Stoicism is an ancient philosophical ocean filled with profound thoughts on the philosophy of life, ethics, and inner peace. This video will open a door to explore what Stoicism is, what fundamental principles it encompasses, and how it can be applied in the modern world. Basic principles of Stoicism. Throughout this video, we will explore practical ways to integrate Stoic principles into our daily lives. We will discover what Stoicism can teach us about inner peace, resilience in the face of life's challenges, and making effective decisions. This philosophical journey is not just about understanding ancient wisdom, it's about applying it to our contemporary lives. So, are you ready to embark on this exploration with me? Let's dive into the world of Stoicism. Stoicism is an ancient tradition that reflects both the characteristic features of the Hellenistic period and has served as a source for many subsequent philosophies, leaving traces that can still be followed in various forms today. Emerging under conditions conducive to the amalgamation of diverse ideas from different geographical locations with ancient Greek thought, Stoicism allowed for interpretations that could range widely. This diversity simultaneously promised an inner state of freedom from the oppression created by existing unequal structures, while also providing legitimizing tools that could encourage acceptance of these structures. Indeed, the proponents of the philosophy, especially in its early stages, emphasized equality. However, over time, it will be observed that these proponents derived elements from the teachings to strengthen and legitimize unequal structures. Early Stoicism, 3rd century BCE, 2nd century BCE, disrupted an ongoing tradition by advising individuals who felt helpless in an environment without support to turn inward as a solution. The school advocates for the individual to relate to their own inner world as a consoling remedy. In line with the continuation of Greek thought and Stoic understanding, the fundamental goal of achieving happiness is through understanding nature and aligning oneself with it as a harmonious part of the universe. In this sense, Stoicism encourages individuals to know themselves ontologically, understand their place in the universe, grasp the meaning they carry, and behave in accordance with universal reason. This attitude will also provide a mental tranquility free from the influence of passions. As emphasized by Seneca, fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. Seneca, 1925, 229. Although the exact source is not known, the Serenity/Stoic prayer reflects this understanding well. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference, quoted in Perker. Considering the historical background, this study aims to outline the ancient Stoic philosophy in broad strokes and briefly highlight aspects of the teaching that allow for different/opposite interpretations. In this context, it will first delve into the Hellenistic period, the era in which Stoicism took shape, followed by the philosophical branches of logic, physics, and ethics, and finally, considering its flexible structure. Explore the meaning of Stoicism and how it can be interpreted from different perspectives. The term Hellenism, first used in the 19th century, Martin, 2012, 335, traditionally refers to a period in Greek history that spans from the time of Alexander the Great to the dominance of the Roman Empire. Covering the end of the 4th century BCE to the beginning of the 1st century CE, Hadit, 2011, 97. The Hellenistic era of classical philosophy is generally considered to have begun with the death of Aristotle in 322 BCE, exactly 1 year after the death of Alexander the Great, and ended with the death of Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt from the Ptolemaic dynasty, in 30 BCE, Warren, 2021, 512. The concept is used to describe the universal cosmopolitan culture that emerged with the expansion of Greek language and culture beyond the boundaries of the Greek world into the ancient civilizations of the East, influenced by and influencing them. Arslan, 2010, 3. The Hellenistic era is often viewed as the encounter between East and West, attributing a distinctive quality to this period. For this assertion to be valid, it would imply that there was no interaction between East and West before this period. However, examining the period before Alexander the Great reveals that communication channels between the Greek world and the East were open. The economic structure of Greek city-states, based on trade, and the very existence of the polis being shaped by trade, made complete isolation impossible. Indeed, evidence shows that many sailors and merchants engaged in sea trade with the East, and numerous colonies were established beyond the Greek world. Therefore, for this new era to carry a different significance, it needs to go beyond mere contact and possess a qualitative aspect. In this context, the claim that, rather than a mere clash of ideas, the Hellenistic era witnessed the mutual influence of East and West, leading to the formation of a new synthesis, seems more accurate. Consequently, while Greek city-states may have lost their uniqueness and freedom, their systems of thought began to spread into the East. Despite previous encounters, it is evident that there was not a significant exchange of ideas between the West and the East that would mutually influence each other. The Greek world managed to preserve its uniqueness in some way. To metaphorically express this situation, it is akin to a gloved hand not getting wet. One could talk about the existence of contact but the absence of a transformative effect. So, what was the force that took off this glove? Looking at previous periods, the ancient Greek trading colonies in the coastal regions of the Eastern world were pure Greek cities. Arslan, 2010, 6. This implies that these regions had close ties with Greek city-states and preferred not to assimilate. Therefore, Greek colonies were isolated in their regions except for trade. The main reason for this situation was the Greeks' view of themselves as privileged and other communities as barbarians. This perspective created an intentional state of isolation towards the other, hindering the interaction of intellectual influence. The sacred city-state, containing divinity, was considered a highly valuable gift bestowed upon the Greeks by the gods. Disrupting the city-state order was synonymous with defying the gods. Moreover, for the Greek individual, contemplating a way of life outside the city-state reality was inconceivable. Since every Greek primarily perceived themselves as citizens, life was conditioned by the reality of the city-state. Outside of the city-state, they were nothing. Galari, 2009, 16. As seen, for the Greek citizen, a meaningful world was defined solely by the city-state. The principle/archy that ensured sociality was the city-state. Humans were cells, and the city-state was the organism. Therefore, even though made up of cells, the city-state was more than them. All existence gained meaning only through it, and human values were completed with it. Friedel, 2004, 100. In the Hellenistic era, a vital difference emerged that shattered this connection, leading to the mutual influence of East and West, the loss of independence by Greek city-states. With the Hellenistic era, the city-states lost their uniqueness and freedom, as if falling to the earth. The central position, serving as carriers of all thoughts in some way, lost their independence, initiating a process where entrenched thoughts and values began to shake. In this sense, one could say that the Greek individual fell from within the city-state. This meant the emergence of chaos, disorder, instability, and individual indecision. Social upheavals and political instabilities undoubtedly encouraged everyone to deal with their own garden, but at the same time, they accelerated the urgent reconsideration of order, hierarchy, sovereignty, and obedience. 2009. 119. Stoicism, indirectly in some aspects, would provide various responses to all these issues. Stoicism is both a product of the conditions in which it emerged and the accumulation of philosophical thought that preceded it. Therefore, it is essential to recognize the underlying continuity along with certain innovations. According to general consensus among sources, Zeno began his philosophical journey as a disciple of the Cynic Crates. Indeed, in the early stages of Stoicism, the influence of Cynicism is evident. For example, Stoics, influenced by Cynics, not only sought to construct a philosophical theory, but also endeavored to integrate their lifestyle with the theory. Irvine, 2009, 32. However, when looking at the concrete teachings embodied in the identity of Diogenes, a Cynic, it is evident that Cynicism involved a rigorous lifestyle that almost resembled a state of nature, attacking all institutional and intellectual values accepted by humanity. For instance, it is said that Diogenes of Sinope lived in a barrel, rolled in the scorching sand in the summer, and embraced snow-covered statues in winter, thus exposing himself to all kinds of hardships. Lertios, 2007. 264 to 265. Stoics, on the other hand, embraced internal freedom and a lifestyle in harmony with nature, but they softened the impact of Cynic teachings, did not reject all values, and did not completely distance themselves from society. In terms of philosophical significance, another important source for Stoics is Socrates. Stoics developed a philosophy that emphasizes gaining knowledge about the material world and the enlightened governance of the universe, as well as examining and applying virtue for a peaceful life. It will not be difficult to find traces of all these different aspects in Plato's Socrates. Warren, 2021, 513. Indeed, it is said that Zenon, one of the founders, turned to philosophy due to his admiration for Socrates, and the school, like many other philosophical currents, distinguishes itself by presenting itself as the sole follower of Socrates. Socrates' attitude during his trial, his refusal to escape, his silence in the face of death, and his explicit statement that the wrongdoer would harm himself more than his victim all perfectly align with the Stoic doctrine. Russell, 1969, 378. Socrates' influence is particularly pronounced in the ethical moral aspect of philosophy. Like Socrates, Stoics assert that knowledge episteme is virtue errate, equating the two, and emphasize the necessity of being virtuous knowledgeable to achieve the ultimate goal of happiness. However, it is challenging to assert that Plato and Aristotle, two other important thinkers in the Greek world, had such a powerful influence on the school, especially considering the early periods of the school. Indeed, the focused thinking of both philosophers on the city-state and Plato's transcendent understanding of God does not align with the Stoics' assumption of a world-state and their inherent understanding of God and the universe. However, it is crucial not to neglect certain similarities. Stoics share with Plato the idea of a divine foresight in the universe, and they conceptualize the warm breath, the active principle of nature, and its mode of operation in individual entities, in a manner similar to Aristotle's form and its mode of operation in matter. Arslan, 2010, 183-184. Nevertheless, it is observed, especially in the case of Stoics, that they make efforts to turn to natural philosophers, much like Epicurus. Particularly, Heraclitus can be considered important for the Stoics. In this sense, the perception of fire as the fundamental principle of the universe, the defense of the existence of absolute change in the universe, and the prominence of logos as the organizing principle clearly confirm this influence. Therefore, despite being a product of a new era, it should be kept in mind that the Stoics had not completely severed their ties with the classical age and the great ideas of that period. Due to these influences and the conditions of the time, Stoicism quickly gained significance shortly after its emergence and took root to the extent of becoming the official ideology of the Roman Empire over time. The early Stoa, in this regard, holds a unique place as it laid the intellectual groundwork for its subsequent followers. Therefore, examining Stoic philosophy in broad strokes is important for understanding both the Greek world of that era and the subsequent Roman thought. Stoic philosophy. Stoics argue that the fundamental purpose of human life, in continuous continuity with Greek thought, is happiness. The main concern is to construct a virtuous and good life equated with happiness in this world. In the words of Paul Vane, Stoicism is not so much an ethics as it is a paradoxical prescription for happiness, quoted in Irvine, 2009, 35. The Stoa school, which emerged at the heart of Athens with a thought system reflecting the characteristics of the Hellenistic period, divides philosophy into three interconnected areas, as commonly seen in Hellenistic philosophy: logic, the method of finding truth; physics, the fundamental truth about the nature of existence; and ethics, the path for individuals to achieve happiness and goodness as a result of logic and physics. Martin, 2012, 356. However, it can be said that the main focus is on ethics, and the other elements serve as intermediate or supportive elements in reaching ethics. To illustrate, Stoics liken philosophy to a living being. Logic corresponds to bones and nerves, ethics to fleshy parts, and physics to the soul. Or they liken it to an egg. Logic is the shell. The next part, namely reason, is ethics, and the inside, or the yolk, is physics. Lerchios, 2007, 318. Therefore, while each of the three elements of philosophy appears indispensable, distinctive importance is attributed to ethics. Nevertheless, in any case, it is necessary to view the philosophical sections as essential organic components rather than independent, separate pieces in Stoicism, which has a holistic philosophy. Each is inseparably connected to the others, and the existence of each is necessary. Just as an egg cannot be an egg without the shell, yolk, and white, each of these elements requires the others to be defined. Tanyi, 2021, 528. Therefore, a sharp distinction can only be made at the categorical methodological level. Logic, epistemology as the method of reaching true knowledge in Stoic philosophy. When examining Stoic philosophy, it is evident that logic plays a significant and supportive role. Divided into rhetoric and dialectic and focusing on correct reasoning, Irvine, 2009, 33, logic, according to the Stoics, is the part of philosophy that concerns logos, and here, logos means the rational principle that governs the entire universe. Tanyi, 2021, 529. The inclusion of rhetoric in the scope of logic is due to the direct association of speech with reason and the belief that speech is possible through thinking. As will be detailed later, logic is a key element that enables the integration of nature and universal reason with human beings. Duriskin, 1991, 287. In the context of this article, the central issue within the framework of logic is the problem of knowledge. According to Stoic epistemology, the sole way to achieve the ultimate goal of happiness is through knowledge. From this perspective, the nature of knowledge and how to attain this knowledge become fundamental subjects of inquiry. In Stoicism, knowledge is a powerful, solid, and irreplaceable comprehension that cannot be changed by opposing arguments. Kinney, 2017, 197. Stoics, who are materialists to the extent of embodying even God and the soul, maintain this materialistic stance in their views on knowledge as well. In their thought, there is no reality in the absolute entities possessing absolute reality seen in Plato. As the Greek philosopher Antisthenes, who founded the Cynic school, said, they would say they saw a horse, not the hoarseness. Copleston, 2009, 13. Therefore, the school views universals as non-existent thought images. The representations defined by the Stoics as grasps catalepticae deserve approval. They not only represent correctness but also show the trace of their own truth, and the intelligent subject possesses all the tools necessary to know them. Indeed, the individual logos is the mirror of the universal logos that governs the entire universe. Tanyi, 2021, 530. For the Stoics, true knowledge is only the knowledge of individual objects. Therefore, they only accept sensory perception or sensation as the source of knowledge. In this context, it can be said that they laid the foundation for the first nominalistic ontology. Dear viewers, I hope you enjoyed the discussion about Stoicism throughout this video and gained insight into how this ancient philosophical movement adds value to our modern lives. I appreciate you joining me on this journey. If you like this video, you can show your support by clicking the like button and subscribing to my channel to stay updated on new content. Remember, Stoicism is not just a philosophical movement, it's a way of life. Integrating these teachings into our lives is in our hands and can make each day more conscious, effective, and meaningful.